Alexander, you get that damn engine out of that car. I'll have your job. Don't you know that no car in General Motors can go faster than a Corvette?
I gotta put this away and get my ass inside.
Nice meeting you. Thanks for everything. I love to hear your stories.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Yep.
All right. We'll go back in.
But it's very possible that that might happen, because there's only been a couple times in my life that I've really, really sobbed, and it was the night that I was told I had to close the plant. That was the first time. The second time was when I lost my husband. Two big things. But you have made me so happy today that you have come to see all of us and see these fabulous cars, because this was the best car that GM ever built. I'm very prejudiced. And I did start my career in 1975 at the Pontiac Motor Division, but in plant engineering. So not design engineering. We had silos back then. In any event, it is the people that make the place, and the place will always be here in my heart. Right there, okay. So, this is my favorite car in the whole world, possibly because it's blue, but it's because it's a blue Fiero, and someday you're gonna get me. Okay. And I want to tell you that I took one of these home before they were for sale. And I lived in an apartment very close to here, in fact, across the street from the hotel that many of us are staying at in Fox Hills. It's a condo now, because I drove past it today and found out it's a condo, but it was an apartment then. And we lived there for about 6 years. And I drove one of these home, and the next morning it wasn't there. And when the police got there and they took the details down, they said, Miss Alexander, quit driving these fabulous cars home. You can when you get a garage. I didn't know when I would get a garage, but they told me not to. But I want to show you one of my favorite Pontiac Fiero commercials.
Pontiac Fiero GT. Want to see something really exciting? Fiero GT, now with the authority of a fuel-injected V6. Fiero. You got it, Pontiac.
I worked for General Motors for 33 years. And when I retired, I left for a 2-year contract to teach at the University of Michigan. That was 15 years ago. And I don't know when I'm gonna stop. But in my class, I teach positive downsizing. Unfortunately, it's a positive leadership class at the business school. But the biggest lessons that we learned by having this wonderful family relationship was we could close a plant and take care of all the people. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we got there. and what we did. And somebody does need to take a picture of me and can send it to me so that I can send it to my children. Alluded to it. Before we were building cars, we had to build an agreement, and it was going to be the first team concept agreement in the world, really, except for there was one in Eisenach, Germany, that kind of
So you were a good pitcher. That's all.
I thought maybe you did for everybody seen your post shot.
And we could tell everybody.
Yeah, you're holding down the floor.
You grant them for Fiero painted and sweater, and you'll have a picture of me down on mine. Right in front of you. Damn sick dog. I knew I'd get it one way or the other.
You guys see Leo, that's some check.
Well, the answer on the Monterey.
What's that?
word for word.
What do I want to do, bypass this department? We're years ago, I'm going to continue to have the same problem if I accept it. If I sit back there and accept this answer.
That's the same thing we went through for 3 years.
I mean, the pipe fitters are present cleaning that system on a straight time basis, okay?
Right.
There's 2 pipe fitters.
Throughout the time that we were there together. He took them for parties, he took them, well, you'll see. But this wasn't the first negotiations that Farley and I did. This was the last negotiation that we did. And as you can see him on the left-hand side and Michael pontificating next to him. So, you could have been. So that's what the bargaining table at the Fiero plant looked like. And this is what happened around midnight when we settled the agreement before the media came in the room. Okay, I have to tell you, the man closest to me is Rich McMillan. He was the plant manager at the time that I was the HR director. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a little while. This is us signing the books for posterity.
Then we've got to do them all over again.
Good job, Mike.
Cheri? Jim?
Look back.
Okay, Bob, you and Rick shake hands again.
Good job, Mike. Good job. Even though Cheri did it.
I know she had a lot of help. A lot of help. I saw you do them all gone. But you did a great job. Hey, Cheri, why don't you shake hands without the hug this time?
Yeah.
Without the hug, yeah. Make it look like business, you know.
Congratulations.
See, I don't know if all of you could hear, but Leo said, come shake hands, but without the hug this time. Make it look like business. It's hard to believe we're this old.
I'm seasoned here to go.
Many. Yep. So, we had a good run, and behind the scenes, we knew that there were some people who wanted to close the plant. We didn't appreciate it, and we made a lot of presentations that you can't close the #1 quality plant in General Motors out of 200 factories. We were that good. And we had the best labor agreement. And then one day, I got a telephone call. And, well, before I tell you that story, I'm going to tell you the first mic drop story. There are 2. I was at the back of the plant on the first floor because every morning we walked all 3 floors. We walked together. We checked on everybody. And I was way at the back of the plant. And my radio went off. and I picked up the radio, and Rich, the plant manager's secretary, said, "Jim Wemos is on the telephone." Jim Wemos, stand up. Another man who made my career. He was the vice president. Over my boss. And he didn't usually call to talk to me. I hightailed it up. Of course, we had lots of safety rules. So I didn't run in the plant, but I walked really fast. And I got to the telephone, and I picked up, and I said, "Hello, Mr. Wemos." And he said, "Your boss just quit." I liked my boss a lot. We all liked him a lot. He's going to Fuji Subaru to start a new plant, and you have to give him an exit interview, and you have to take his car keys away, and you have to call him a cab. Well, by then my heart was really beating hard, and I really felt bad, and I didn't know how I was going to give an exit interview to my boss. I said, "Okay." And he said, "Wait, you can't hang up yet." I said, "Okay." Now I gotta tell you, every time I got a new job at General Motors, I would think in my head, I can't do that job. It was the first thing that came into my head. I can't do that job. And I'd go home and I'd tell my husband, "I can't do that job. I've never done that job." And he would say, "Have you ever failed yet?" And I'd say, "Well, yeah." He goes, "You've always come through. So get it together." And we had a good run. And we had a great group of people to keep us that high. So that was my first mic drop moment. But the second mic drop moment was the fact that there were people, and as you heard from the engineers all day today, there were politics. Ugly, nasty politics. And there were certain people in the company that didn't like Bill Hoagland, didn't like what Hulky had done, and this car was not a Chevrolet. The issue was, we did have a few fires, and we did have over-marketing. We did, in the first couple of years, build a little bit too many to keep the thing going. But the phone call I got this time was from headquarters, from a man named Ed Dilworth. And he said, they're going to send a car to Warren Tech Center. You are to drive to the tech center and get into the car with me, Ed Dilworth, lawyer, because we're going to the plant closing committee. They're closing your plant. You are to talk to nobody. I did what I was told. I went down to the General Motors building to the 15th floor. Some of you know, 14th floor was where the leadership was. I didn't even know we had a 15th floor. I was in my Fiero clothes because we all dressed the same. We had a Fiero t-shirt on, I had khakis on, and I walked into a room with suits. They were from New York, and they were talking about my plant, a plant they'd never walked in, a plant they did not know my workers. They did not know my people. And I'm sure they had never ridden in one of my cars. Dilworth told me I could not speak. He said, just listen and we'll deal with it later. And when they were saying some things, I was just about to speak, and he could tell from my body language, he grabbed my leg. And I didn't speak. And when I went home that night, that was the night that I sobbed for the first time ever since I was a very little child. I didn't want to get out of my car. I was in the garage, the first garage I ever had, and I was crying. And finally my husband came out to see what was going on, and I said, they're closing my plant. And he said, oh no, Dad's here, his father. His father was a Corvette engineer. But he loved my little car. In fact, I was the son he never had. He wanted his son to be an engineer. And he got to school, and he was in engineering school, but then he got roped into becoming a very famous archaeologist. In any event, his father cut off all support. Wasn't too much, because in the summers he had to set cores in our foundry to pay for schooling. But when Richard married me, his father, also Richard, started to like him again, because I was an engineer and I was working for General Motors. In any event, these were my choices. And these are the choices that I give my students when I teach at the university, and I tell them about Fiero. And I show them the commercials, and I show them things that they can't believe that I had curly hair. It's still curly. In any event, these are the choices. I say, would you fight for the best plant in General Motors? Would you quit if you had been me? Or would you close the plant? Now I have to thank Jim Weemels again, because the reason it says interim plant manager is because they didn't want me to become a plant closer. So he never let me be the full plant manager and be the one to officially close the plant. But I was there until the last day that we did anything at Fiero. I chose to take care of the people, to take care of the people who made this amazing plant operate. And behind the scenes, we fought the corporation for 7 months to try and keep it open. Huh? We fought very hard together and separately, and talked to Don Eflin a lot about it at the time. So let's have another happy commercial. And we brought that band into the plant too. We did a lot of things that you never saw in plants. Oh yeah, we did bring Hall & Oates into the plant. They totally forgot we brought Hall & Oates into the plant. So I want to tell you really quickly what happened. The next morning, hired psychologists and counselors, and we formed a nonprofit corporation called GMUAW Metro Prep, and we formed a learning community. We got money from the governor. We trained a lot of people for different jobs. We placed them, we made a lot of dental hygienists, surprisingly. Auto workers are very dexterous with their hands, and we made a lot of dental hygienists. And we received that grant I told you about, and had trainers, and we had a placement agency, and every morning we celebrated when people got jobs. And we placed all but 17 people in new jobs or in retirement. We had the first retirement, low age, a lot lower than we are. We had an early retirement program, the first one in General Motors. We had parties. We made a yearbook. In fact, we're gonna raffle off one of those yearbooks, and we gave away the last 2 cars. Now, we asked for a car for every worker. but our negotiation skills got us too. So, and we had a great photo competition. We gave bicycles to the children. We tried to take care of not only the workers, but their families as well that were going through hell. And the quality of the plant went up. And it was already the best. We fought, we took care of the people. Yes, somebody told me when I was given the job to close the plant, make sure nobody kills themselves. We had a store. We had a fantastic store. We went on, as Bob told all of you, to train the plants around the country as well as in Europe to learn what we learned, that if you take care of the people take care of your company. And here is one of our monthly parties. And we gave away cars. This is Jim Whittam, one of our union officials in the plant. And years later, I was the HR director for the Automotive Components Group, which was headquartered in Paris, France. And it was wonderful. Jimmy and his wife came and stayed with us, a family we were.
I'd like to say to each and every one of you, I appreciate the way this plant is being shut down. I know it's not easy for any of us. It's not easy for management, and it's not easy for us. I appreciate deeply the professionalism that you've used in maintaining production standards over the past 7 months. All the options. The way it was March 1st, at the time of the announced closing. The only 3 names that are not in that barrel are Tim Lee's, Cheri Alexander's, and myself. And we are the only ones who had our hands on the cards. Kelly, Material Control. Congratulations. Thank you. Lou, congratulations. Before you run away, if you care to watch, we're going to flip a coin among these 2 guys, and Lou, I'm going to ask you to call it heads or tails. The winner of the coin flip gets the very last car, and the loser, which if he doesn't really want it, will pull someone else's name, gets the second to last car. Lou, I want you to call it in the air. Lou called heads. It's a tail. You get the second to last car. You get the last car. Congratulations.
And you can see that car here. You can see the first car and the last car. Now, mostly because of what I heard this afternoon, I had to make sure to tell you the story. So before I go, I almost got fired 3 times at General Motors. The first time was for shutting down the foundry for a very unsafe condition. And the plant manager at that time, and I was in engineering at the time, he told me he was gonna have my job. Obviously, he didn't. He tried one more time. I won't tell you the sordid details of what he did that time. But the third time was because of something we did. One of the reliability garage guys, one of our wonderful workers in the reliability garage, came into my office one day and he said, "Cheri, is it okay if we put a quad 4 engine from Lansing in the Fiero?" I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, it's gonna go really fast." I don't know if any of the engineers that talked to us earlier knew we did this. Somebody must have known. We put the quad 4 in. The car leapt off the ground. Another phone call came. This time it was Dave Campbell. He was at CPC headquarters. He was an executive vice president. He probably was your boss at the time. He said, "Alexander, you get that damn engine out of that car. I'll have your job. Don't you know that no car in General Motors can go faster than a Corvette?" And with that, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for loving my car.
Honestly, did anybody realize that you were going to get that perspective of our Fiero? No. When I talked to Cheri a couple of years ago, I was magneted by her passion, the way she spoke. It was truly her car, and I share that passion too. So it was really cool to be able to connect with Cheri, and then she brought in the rest of these fine Fiero folks from the Fiero plant. Thank you very much.